Hello, everyone. It's 12:30, but we do traditionally give people a couple minutes to get on, so we'll probably get started in about 2 minutes. While we wait to get started, there were a couple questions that came in, and I just want to that through. We collected questions on the RSVP list, and I was just going to go over a couple of those, and I'll also try to put these in writing as well. Somebody asked about the issues, the content of the ballot, some of the issues that are getting voted on, pros and cons, and how they impact the community. That is not actually something these webinars, this one or the elections information addresses. We don't really cover ballot content. We cover more of the process. So today's webinar is about the ranked choice voting process and how that works, how the ballots will be counted, and the details on that process. And then we have another webinar next week on the overall election process, and that goes into election security, voter statistics, and more. But in terms of ballot content, do not typically cover that in these presentations. And then someone asked about volunteer opportunities in Longmont. If you are looking to work as an election judge or worker, I can go ahead and include that link. I believe we are filled for this election and have staffed up, but we definitely continuously take people's information to get back to the next election. However, we do fill a lot of those positions directly through the party lists. I think those are the main questions, and I think we can go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm Mircala. I don't think I gave that introduction. For those that you've trickled on since I started talking, I was just covering a couple of questions that had come in through the RSVP list. And I'm going to go ahead and put Molly on screen, our clerk and recorder. She's going to introduce herself, give a little bit of information, and then we'll go ahead and get the presentation started.
Great. Thanks, Mircala, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We wanted to do this webinar as a way to introduce some of the changes that are going to occur this election and just provide some key election information. So a little bit about me, Molly Fitzpatrick. I have been the clerk and recorder since 2019 and just started my second term. And so I'm looking forward to sharing this information with you, and above all, just want to communicate that our office is here to be a resource for any and every elections question. No question is a bad one, and our team is ready to answer anything that comes up for you this election or any questions that you have. And again, just want to reinforce, that our team's here, and we also have lots and lots of information on our website. We're doing these public presentations and webinars, and then we're also doing ballot processing tours as well. So please reach out with any question that you have. And again, just know that we're a friendly office and here to support in whatever way we can. So with that being said, I'm going to go off camera and we'll go ahead and dive into the presentation. Okay, so in this presentation, we're going to go over some key statistics, what's changed this election, and within that, how to, if you're a City of Boulder voter, be successful in voting your ranked choice voting ballot for the first time. We're going to go over some tabulation information and how the results are going to be reported, what happens with the post-election audit when it comes to RCV, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so Boulder County elections is guided by state election statute and rule. We did not take any sort of stance on RCV for the City of Boulder, but we have worked to ensure that what is implemented is, implemented according to state statute and rules, and we also had some influence into those guidelines. But before we go into kind of what those guidelines are, just some key dates. We've already sent military and overseas ballots, and we've also done our pre-election testing of ballots and equipment. And that testing is to ensure that the voting system is set up properly to tabulate votes accurately. And that was a public test. We had bipartisan representation and participation in that test and had sign off just verifying that everything was set up correctly, the election was programmed correctly. Ballots were mailed on October 16th, which was a Monday. So you should be receiving your ballot in the mail this week. And then you can always go to govotecolorado.gov to check your voter registration and make any changes that you need to, and we'll reissue you a new ballot. And then Vote Early Day is October 26th, which is a big day for us. We have 3 events going on. It's a national celebration to really encourage people to vote early to make sure that nothing stands in their way between now and election day, because we know life is busy, life happens, and we want to make sure that we highlight that opportunity. And we also have a food drive going on with the Emergency Family Assistance Association. And that's an organization here in the city of Boulder that supports financially challenged individuals in our community. So if you want to drop your ballot off, you can also drop off some sort of donation for that food drive anytime now between now and election day. Vote centers open on October 30th, and those vote centers are where you can go vote in person, register to vote, request a replacement ballot, vote on equipment for folks with a disability, and really get any questions answered that you might have. October 30th is the last day to register online and request a replacement ballot by mail. After that date, you will need to go into a vote center, and we have 4 vote centers in Boulder County. And then we have the 3 elections next year with the dates below: the presidential primary, the summer statewide primary, and the general election. A little bit about Boulder County voters. This data and more data is available on our website if you're interested at bouldercountyvotes.org, or sorry, bouldercountyvotes.gov. We have 230,000 active registered voters. In 2014, we had 184,000 active registered voters. So you can see that our population has really grown significantly. And the vast majority of our county is unaffiliated, followed by the Dems and then the Republicans. But it is, like I said, the vast majority of our county is are unaffiliated voters. And this is some interesting information. Traditionally, Boulder has had the most registered voters, but Longmont actually leapt ahead of Boulder in the spring of 2022. So Longmont now has the most active registered voters by city. And again, this data and more data is available on our website if you want to check it out in case you're curious. Voter turnout in general and coordinated elections. As you can imagine, voter turnout is higher in presidential and midterm elections, and it does tend to dip in these smaller odd year elections. So we really encourage you all to please let folks know that, yes, there is an election this year, and to ensure that voter registration is updated so the friends and family get that ballot in the mail. And there are a lot of important issues on the ballot this year. There's statewide issues and local issues as well, and local contests. So please feel free to spread the word that there are elections every year, not just in the big presidential midterm years. Okay, so ranked choice voting, the reason you all probably wanted to attend this webinar. So a little bit of context. The city of Boulder in 2020 asked voters a couple of questions. One of them was, should we elect the mayor amongst voters, and should we do that using ranked choice voting? Whereas traditionally, the city council elected the mayor amongst the city council. So that was a change, and overwhelmingly City of Boulder voters said, yes, let's move forward with these changes. It was actually over 78% of voters decided or voted in favor of these reforms. And what ranked choice voting does is it allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference when there are 3 or more candidates for a contest. You might also hear this type of contest and this kind of voting method referred to as instant runoff voting. And that's when we use the word or term instant runoff voting, that's when there's a single winner for that contest. And so ranked choice voting is really the umbrella term. And this specific type of contest, because only one person will be the winner, is referred to also as an instant runoff voting. And so, as mentioned, this voters voted in 2020 on these changes. And in 2021, we knew that we would have to create structure and guidelines and governance around how these types of elections would be conducted. And so we worked to pass a bill requiring the Secretary of State to adopt rules and guidelines for the conduct of RCV elections. And again, I'd like to highlight that we did not take a stance on RCV. And I personally did not take a stance either, but once it passed, we knew that we wanted strong governance and rules and process to guide us, and also future counties that will be required to do this type of contest as well. And then we passed that bill in 2021, and what that bill did was really outline key dates that the secretary would have to adhere to in terms of getting some of these policies ready for implementation and some of the software ready for implementation. And then in 2023, the Secretary's office produced rules that we commented on through the public process. And I know some of you might have commented on those as well. So that's really the history of RCV. So as you all can imagine, this is a big change, not only for our office, but for voters. And so it's really impacted end-to-end elections administration. So our team has been working very, very hard on everything from voter communications, education, and outreach. So we've been doing lots of, public outreach webinars like these, ballot processing tours, where we'll also talk about RCV, updating our website with FAQs, how to be successful in participating in this type of election, lots of coordination with the city of Boulder and other community groups, media, radio. We've been looking and studying best practices from jurisdictions across the country that have done RCV and looking at how they design their ballots to be successful, not only with their voting system, but also for voters. We had to update our voting system earlier this summer with the RCV software so we could tabulate the RCV contest. And again, did our public testing of ballots and equipment recently. And we've had to look at results reporting. So how are we going to actually present this visually so voters can understand how the votes are tabulated as they move through rounds and as we do more uploads. And then, of course, preparing for the post-election results audit. Most of you likely know that Colorado is a leader when it comes to post-election audits. So one of the things that we've been working on is ensuring that the RCV contest is audited and that it's audited to standards that are very similar to the way we audit current contests. So an overview on our communications and outreach. Again, I think I've touched on most of this, but the coordination with the City of Boulder has been very instrumental to make sure that our messages are streamlined and hitting audiences in a variety of formats. We've been reaching out to jurisdictions across the country and organizations across the country that help jurisdictions like us implement RCV. And we've been reaching out to folks just in a variety of channels. Again, here's all the ways that we've done that. There was a newsletter that went out, a postcard mailing, social media, videos, and there's also an interactive online ballot as well. And we also do want to highlight that in your ballot packet, there is a separate ballot insert with RCV information. And that ballot insert is green, and we'll have an example of what that looks like in a couple slides, but we really encourage everyone to keep that insert with them, and it's both in English and Spanish because it has important information on how to be successful in marking your ballot. The RCV contest is going to appear on every single City of Boulder ballot. And again, this is actually what that insert that I was just speaking about looks like. So it's going to have how to properly mark your ballot, how votes are counted, common errors, and tips. And it also has, of course, information on how to get in touch with our office should you make a mistake on your ballot and what to do. But again, this is in English and Spanish. The flip side of this is in Spanish. And so in addition to this, the ballot itself will have instructions on how to mark that RCV contest. Okay, so how to mark your ballot. Again, this information is going to be on the ballot and on that green insert that's included with every City of Boulder ballot. But in the first column, quite simply, you're going to mark your first choice. In the second column, you're going to mark your second choice, so on and so forth. And there are 4 candidates running for the mayoral contest this election, so you can vote for up to 4, or you can vote for as few as you want as well. And we'll go over some of the exceptions to that in a second. So one of the things that I just mentioned is you can vote for as few candidates as you want to, but one thing that will be impactful is if you skip a ranking. So what that means is if you mark someone as first and third, but you don't mark someone as second, what that means and the impact of that is that after the skipped ranking, those choices are ignored and only the previous rankings are counted. So that's an important piece of information for you all to be aware of. And again, that's going to be included on multiple sources in that mail ballot packet. And then an overvote is when there's multiple votes in a column. That is going to invalidate the overvoted rankings and all lower rankings marked for that contest. A duplicate ranking is when there's multiple votes in a row. And that's when the candidate is credited. What we'll do is the candidate with the highest ranking is credited, but other rankings for that candidate are ignored. And so these are the main exceptions that we wanted to draw everyone's attention to. These examples are on our website, on the handout, as well as others, a couple other sources as well, but we wanted to make sure that this was really highlighted because we want to make sure that this information is shared with as many people as possible. So please let people know that there are instructions on how to properly mark your ballot. So every ranking is counted as you desire. Okay, so how are we tabulating these votes? So again, we're following Title I and Colorado election rule on how to actually interpret and count votes. And there is a voter intent guide that our bipartisan teams are going to use that adjudicate ballot marking exceptions. And so that, again, is going back to some of those examples we used in the previous slide. And if voter intent isn't clear, a bipartisan team, and it will be a Republican and a Democrat working together to determine voter intent using Secretary of State guidelines. And so in terms of tabulation, in the first round of tabulation, the first choice rankings are counted for each candidate. And if no candidate has more than 50% of the first choice rankings, this is what triggers that instant runoff. So the candidate with the fewest first choice rankings is eliminated, and those ballots then have their next choice counted. And this is the process, this elimination and transfer process continues until a candidate has more than 50% of the votes counted. And so we'll go over how this is going to be presented and how you can understand how the votes move through the different instant runoff scenarios in just a second. Okay, a little bit about the results reporting. So as you all know, likely it will take us a couple of days to process the bulk of the ballots, and that is normal, and that is completely means that we're following our normal protocols. In a mail ballot state, it does take longer to process a ballot, and that's because there are so many steps baked in from the minute we take the ballot into our possession to when it gets tabulated to ensure integrity and accuracy throughout the process. So we do appreciate everyone's understanding that processing a mail ballot does take time. So one of the biggest changes that we want to draw everyone's attention to is that typically we have our first posting at 7 p.m. That is not going to be the case this year. It will be at approximately 7:15. And that is because there are some additional steps that we need to take in order to post those RCV results with as much transparency as possible. And so that is a choice that we made to have additional layers of transparency on how the votes are getting moved through rounds. And so it will take a bit longer to post results. So one thing that would be really helpful is if everyone could make sure that not only you understand that, but also that you're communicating that to your networks as well. And this is the draft schedule. It's all subject to change. And sometimes people ask, why don't we do more postings? And that's because it's a balance, because every time we do a posting, it means that a lot of our processing operation must pause in order to post those results. And so it's kind of that balance of, producing enough results for the public while also continuing to be efficient with moving ballots through. We will have our final posting at approximately 1 a.m. on Wednesday, which is like Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And then after that in the afternoons on Wednesday and Thursday. And if we need to do a posting on Friday, we will. And then Thursday, November 17th is going to be the last unofficial results posting. And that's when we will do that last upload. Okay, I think we're good. So every time we post a set of results, there will be RCV results. There's two, so you can go to our normal ENR website, Election Night Results Reporting website, and there's going to be a link that directs you to a separate page where you can have more options on how to look at those results. And so again, we're going to be uploading batches of ballots, and the voting system will conduct instant runoff with each batch of ballots that we upload until a candidate receives more than 50% of the vote. And there will be some information on our website that will go through in greater detail and basically summarizes this information for the public as well. And so again, just keep in mind that with every upload, results can and likely will change when a new batch of ballots is added to the total. And so with ranked choice voting, someone might look like they're eliminated very early on in the process, but that does not necessarily indicate that they are eliminated permanently, because when the next set of results come in, they could be back in the mix. And so we just want to really emphasize that point to the public, that it may look like someone's eliminated from the first upload, but that could very quickly change with the next upload. Okay, so you're going to have options in terms of how you see the results for this contest. One is going to be a pretty straightforward PDF report. And then one option that you'll have to view the results is in a more visual graphical format. And so this is that tool that I was speaking to earlier. It's just going to provide a greater level of detail and transparency into how the results or how the rankings are moved through the rounds. And so you'll have access to both of those links on the ENR website. And ENR, again, is just Election Night Results website. And then coming towards the end here, we will have a post-election audit. Colorado election rule does say that we're required to conduct an audit of the ranked choice voting race. One thing to note is that currently the state hosts the risk limiting audit software for plurality contest, but they are not required, they have not been required to have a tool for us at this point in time. That's happening in a couple years. So what we've been doing is consulting with experts across the country to determine how they conducted post-election audits, and we've modified our process to really incorporate those best practices. And many of the features that we use right now to conduct the risk limiting audit, we're carrying forward into the ranked choice voting audit as well. So having audit boards with bipartisan teams, using the cast vote record as the way to audit the contest, which is essentially the way that the voting system interpreted a ballot at the time of scanning to actually the physical ballot as well. So you'll see many similarities between these audits, and we invite everyone to come to the audit. It is open to the public, and you can see how we're actually verifying that the election outcome was correct. So what we're doing right now is just finalizing some testing of the ranked choice voting processes and procedures, and working to ensure that we're continuing to learn from our partnerships across the country that we've established, not only on RLA, but everything else that comes up along the way. But for the most part, everything has been prepared for at this point, and it's just putting some final touches on our risk limiting audit procedures. And again, but the risk limiting audit is going to kick off the week of November 20th. And here's our upcoming opportunities. Again, our website. We have lots of information on RCV, and we have our election night and beyond webinar next Friday at lunchtime. So that's going to be the deep dive into what is going to be what is considered outstanding after election night, what the public can expect in terms of postings and a more detailed review. And then we'll be doing public processing tours in the weekend leading up to Election Day. And then we will have another webinar on October 25th at 6 p.m. So please share these details with your networks, because we'd love to have more folks know some of these changes that are going on, and also how to communicate key election information to friends and family. And then last, if everyone could just check their voter registration, encourage friends and family to check their voter registration, that would be wonderful. Follow us on social media. And last but not least, please keep that green ballot insert with you, and let us know if you need additional ballot inserts to share out with anyone that might have lost them. That's really going to be the best ticket that City of Boulder voters have to filling out their ballot properly, and also ensuring that our contact information is readily available as well. So that green RCV ballot insert is going to be really important. Please keep that. Let us know if you need any help along the way. And with that, Marcala, I'll let you add anything that you think I might have missed or questions that have come up.
So far, no one's put any questions in, so I'll give people a couple minutes to drop any new questions in. I just put in the chat next the webinar on ballot processing, election night and beyond. That webinar we have not put out the press release or information yet, but it will be next Friday during the lunch hour. Hoping to get that information out tomorrow. Happy to share that link with everyone that RSVP'd for this call in case they want to go even further into the details. Know that webinar is really geared towards press and the candidates, so they understand what ballots, how we're processing ballots, why we have outstanding ballots, and really in the weeds in those details, so they can make accurate assumptions about the ballot results being posted and how many ballots we have to be to count that are outstanding. And just as Molly referenced, we're going to have closer to the election. We do stand up a page that has a lot of the similar content that the webinar covers, kind of that goes into ballot processing and how that works. So that page will be up closer to the election, as well as a new and separate webpage that goes into the details of how ballot processing works for the ranked choice voting test. Does anyone have any questions? So far, no questions. If you do have follow-up questions, we're happy to answer them. You could just respond back to the RSVP email that had the link, and we'll get those answered. We're also going to be doing the same webinar next Monday evening. We want to have both a daytime and evening time slot in case this didn't work for folks. So if you know others that are interested, please have them RSVP for that. And then next Wednesday's webinar is the normal webinar, just overview of the election processes. We do cover those first couple slides again, but then we sort of go into some ballot processing, sort of walking you through the steps we take to process ballots. And then, of course, if you would rather just come in person to our ballot processing tours, I think I included that link in with this link, so you can RSVP for those tours as well, and we'd love to have you. So I think we can go ahead and sign off since I haven't seen any questions come through, and we will end it there. Thank you.
Thank you.